What's up everybody, me PJ back again with another album review. Today I'm going to be talking about the fourth album from the band Baroness, which is called Purple. It's out right now via Braxton Hymns. Now, these guys have been big names in the progressive metal and sludge metal world for a long time. This is their fourth record. They name all their albums after colors. We had the red album and the blue record, which both fit very well into sludge metal as well as progressive metal. Then more recently in 2012 we had their double album Yellow and Green, which kind of moved away from the metal elements and was more of a progressive rock record at heart, but it still retained some of the punch on certain tracks. Now that was 3 years ago, and a lot of people were pretty speculative about where the band would go after that. Would they continue down the progressive rock sort of angle that they had going, or would they return back to their metal roots? Now personally, I was a big fan of Yellow and Green. I sometimes found blue and red to be a little inaccessible at times, but I've grown to appreciate them more over the years, so I was looking forward to this album, to say the least. Now, Purple is 10 tracks long. There's pretty much 8 songs broken up by an interlude and ending with an outro. So you have the first chunk, which is the first 4 songs, then you have the interlude Fugue, and then you have the next 4 main songs, and you have the outro Crossroads of Infinity. Now, the first block of tracks are all really strong. I'd say the strongest are probably the first 2 tracks, specifically Morning Star, which just the intro builds into this just triumphant return to sort of Baroness's roots. Very loud, very punchy. I like this track a lot. It kicked off the album with a bang. Then that leads into Shock Me, which is probably my favorite track on the album just because of how catchy it is. The first thing that really jumped out at me was the intro, which sounded like it could have been easily put on an 80s era Genesis record or a Phil Collins solo record. But overall, it's extremely catchy. The lyrics are very memorable. I feel like fans of just solid rock songs would enjoy this one. If you like a good stoner rock song, this is definitely a song for you. Now, the next 2 tracks, Try to Disappear and Kerosene, are both very solid in their own right. Try to Disappear, I really enjoy the intro to this song. Overall, it's a solid track, but I did feel that it drags on a little bit towards the end. Kerosene is very solid in every part that is not the chorus. Besides that, I really like this song. The chorus I just didn't do it for me, didn't do anything for me. I really did not like it at all, and I felt like it really brought the song down from what it could have potentially been. Now, after this first block of 4 songs, we have Fugue, which is kind of dabbling in almost space rock territory, which is something kind of unexpected, but not sort of out of the ordinary for a band like Baroness, who can be fairly varied during their records. I really like this song, and it feeds into a bit of psychedelic rock near the halfway point, I'd say, and carries into the second half of the album really well. Now, at the start of the second half of the album is probably the epic centerpiece of this record, and probably the most experimental song on the album. That is Chlorine and Wine. It's very much, in my opinion, a tribute to Pink Floyd, and you can even hear a very similar chord progression to Shine On You Crazy Diamond. If you're familiar with both songs, you'll know what I mean. After the intro, it kind of sounds like a very much stoner rock tribute, very fuzzed out tribute to Pink Floyd, and I really dug it. I really enjoyed this song. Besides Shock Me, this is probably my second favorite off the album, just because of its space rock tendencies and almost post-metal tendencies in some parts. After this, we get another batch of kind of solid tracks that didn't really stick out too much. The Iron Bell and Desperation Burns, definitely solid tracks. The Iron Bell had a really good drum fill in the intro that I really enjoyed. Desperation Burns was very groovy. I liked some elements of it, but neither track really blew me away. Now, this record closes out with 2 tracks, the first of which being If I Have to Wake Up, Would You Stop the Rain? The second of which being Crossroads of Infinity. Now, If I Have to Wake Up is basically as close as you're going to get to a ballad from these guys. It's very slowed down, and it's a very epic way to close out the album. Which brings us to track 10, Crossroads of Infinity, which is nothing more than really a short outro with kind of like a voice talking for a little while, and it really didn't seem like it needed to be its own track. I feel like it would have worked perfectly fine if it was just tagged onto the end of track 9, but they did it this way, which I guess they wanted to do. Now, as for the instrumentation on this album, vocally, it's very gruff in style, but it does retain sort of a melodic characteristic, and I feel like these lyrics can be easily like sung along to at a live event, and that's probably what they're best for. As for the guitar, it's very fuzzed out and very loud. Sounds sort of like sludgy and stoner rock-esque. The bass is very audible for the most part, adds a lot of groove and rhythm to the tracks. I felt like it really does its job well. As for drums, there's some really great fills, like I mentioned, on the Iron Bell, and the drum playing overall is really solid. It's they change it up quite a bit. It never gets monotonous. I felt like it really added a lot of variation to the record. And finally, the keys. These were a very integral part to the overall vibe of this record. It added a very spacey vibe to the record, which I really enjoyed. I felt like it was reminiscent of old like 70s prog rock experimentation with just sounds that were really out there, and I really enjoyed that. Now, as for like some negatives to this album, it does feel like a wall of sound at certain points, and I feel like it was mixed a little too loud, which can be a little uncomfortable to listen to, and I felt my ears kind of hurting at certain points listening to this album, just because when compared to their other records are heavy, but they're not super loud. This one just felt heavy and really loud, and some of the like drums felt a little like badly mixed at certain points and were kind of irritating to listen to, like some of the cymbal crashes. Overall, this was a really strong album, and despite some songs having elements I didn't really care for and some tracks not sticking out and the mix being a little off, I still would rate this album as a very strong 8 out of 10. The material here is very strong. It feels like a bit of a return to what Baroness used to do, a little bit moving back from their more progressive rock tendencies that were exhibited on the last record, and more to the heavy riff-oriented style that they used to do on albums like the Red Album and the Blue record. So yeah, 8 out of 10, very strong record. If you've heard this so far, let me know what you thought of it down in the comments. If you like this, feel free to like it, leave a comment, share it around. Now, I'll link you to their Bandcamp where you can currently stream this release. I'll link you to their Facebook, and I'll link you to their merch store where you can pick up vinyl and CD copies of this album. Now, that's going to be it for this review. I'll see you guys later. Until next time, keep it metal.